So right now I am in Gettysburg at the Evergreen Cemetery, and right here I am standing in front of the grave of the woman who is probably the most well-known civilian from the Battle of Gettysburg. This is the grave of Jennie Wade, who was the only civilian who was killed during the battle. And while many people may know the story of Jennie Wade, what they may not know is that Jennie Wade had a love interest here in Gettysburg, a guy by the name of Jack Skelly. Jack Skelly was going to be killed during the Civil War, is also buried in this cemetery. And we're going to come back and take a look at his final resting place here in a little bit. But first, we have a few newly acquired artifacts at the Gettysburg Museum of History that are just absolutely mind-blowing and introduce possibly a little bit of a scandal with Gettysburg's most famous civilian.
We're in the annex building of the Gettysburg Museum of History in my office, and we're going to show you a couple of new things that came into the museum that are not on display yet. And we did a video a while back on the Jennie Wade letters, and they're a really important local artifact and historic artifact. And for those of you who may not have ever been to Gettysburg or maybe not know that story, a quick recap of who Jennie Wade was and what she did is that she was a civilian living here during the Battle of Gettysburg, and she was staying with her sister in a house helping Union soldiers as they retreated through the town on July 1st, 1863. And she was mortally wounded or killed on July 3rd. Now, she's said to be the only civilian that was killed during the battle. I think some other civilians died later, but she's the only one that's considered killed during the battle. And she was killed by a stray bullet that came through the door of that house, and they currently have a museum there. Now, we have the letters, her letters that she wrote to Jack Skelly. Now, Johnston Jack Skelly was in the 87th Pennsylvania. He was also a Gettysburg resident, and he enlisted pretty early in the war, and he went off to war, I believe, with his father also, who later came home because he was pretty old to be running around on the battlefield. But so they had a romance before the battle, and they corresponded with each other. So we have those letters at the museum. And they were on loan, but we recently purchased them from the family of Johnston Jack Skelly. And we're very grateful to have them on permanently at the museum. So the family of Johnston Jack Skelly also had some other items, and they recently came back to me, and they agreed to let us have some other items that were really important items from that collection. And the way they had Jennie Wade's letters was the family went down to retrieve his body because Jack Skelly also was killed in July of 1863. And he was actually mortally wounded and lingered for a while, but he ended up dying, and the family had to get permission to go through the lines. There were lines and pickets at most of the roads, and so you had to obtain a pass and permission to go retrieve a body. Most bodies were just put in the ground where they were. Them being fairly close to where Jack Skelly was, they decided to go retrieve the body. And I'm just going to go through some of these items. These two items have to do with the retrieval of the body. And they have to do with going through the picket line to go get it. And his brother, Daniel Skelly, and his father went down there to get it. And when they picked up his body, Jennie Wade's letters, she had corresponded with Jack Skelly, were on his body. A couple other really interesting items that we were able to get. This is the last letter that they had in a group of letters that Jack Skelly wrote to his mother. Again, these are the descendants of Jack Skelly. This one came in, didn't come to them till after he had already died. So it was written much earlier. It didn't get to them till July, I think it might be 25th of 1863. By then, Jack Skelly had been dead for a couple weeks. So they received this after his death, but it is the last letter. Now, he wrote to his mother and father often. There's lots of letters. We have a couple of them here. Some of them are in the Adams County Historical Society. So another important letter that was amongst that group was this letter that was written to Jack Skelly from his mother. And this is historically important because there's always been rumors, and this has been blown up over the years, and especially portrayed by ghost tours and people who are exploiting the history of Jennie Wade and this whole Jack Skelly Jennie Wade romance. But this letter confirms some of the rumors, or maybe even started some of these rumors. And in this letter, I'm just going to paraphrase. His mother says, "I don't want to meddle in your affairs, but your sisters have asked me repeatedly to write to you about this matter." And she said that Jennie Wade is keeping late company, is a quote, with every Tom, Dick, and Harry in town. So, apparently she liked to hang out with other men. To what degree, we don't know. But I like to say she just was a social butterfly. Some people, including John Burns, the famous citizen soldier here, called her worse things. There was also an unidentified photo here. The family thought this might be Jennie Wade. It is definitely not Jennie Wade. We know what she looks like. There is a verified photo of her. We don't know who it is, but it's a 19th century photograph. But the really interesting thing, because I knew about these other items, I did not know about this. The family didn't know. They found this when they went through a box, was they had this photograph of Jack Skelly, and in uniform. It's a early type ambrotype photo. It's not a tintype. It's hand tinted, and it's a wonderful image. It's really interesting when there's someone kind of famous like this, or infamous, or a local legend, and you find an unknown photo. The only reference we could find of this, there was like a print that was made from this that was like an engraving from some event here a long time ago, but it was basically drawn from this, so it wasn't this clear. And this is a very crisp and clear image, and believe me, I've blown it up, and it's absolutely amazing. So when you find something like that, it's incredible. Now, people all the time are contacting us saying that they found a lost image of Lincoln, or a lost image of Jackson, or a lost image of whoever you want, Lee, and it never is. You don't find lost images of Abraham Lincoln in a flea market somewhere. Doesn't happen. But when you get something direct from the family, I can look at his face and I know that's Jack Skelly, because I've seen other images of him and it came from their family. So that is an unseen, unknown image of him that is just a treasure. And we're very happy to get it. We're very grateful to the family of Jack Skelly for letting us obtain these important artifacts for our collection.
Now, at the beginning of this video, I mentioned that we were going to come back here to the Evergreen Cemetery to take a look at the final resting place of Jack Skelly. So just about, I don't know, maybe 75 yards south of where Jennie Wade is buried, right here, we have the final resting place of her love interest, Jack Skelly. So right here is the final resting place of Johnston Jack Skelly. And here on the stone, some of the words are a little bit difficult to read from the weathering of time, but top it says, "Dear beloved son," and then it says Johnston H., son of J.H. and E.A. Skelly, a member of Company F, 87th Pennsylvania Infantry Volunteer. And then because it's so hard to read, there's actually a bronze plaque down here that tells what the words are that are etched into this stone. So going on, it says, "Wounded and taken prisoner at the Battle of Carter's Woods, June 16, 1863, and died in Winchester, Virginia, July 12, 1863, age 22 years. And then down at the bottom, it says, "My country needs me, mother. May I go?" So anyway, again, a lot of people may know the story of Jennie Wade, but may not know the full story that involves her love interest here, Jack Skelly. All right, well, there you go. So that was a little bit on a rather newly unearthed artifact that is connected to Jennie Wade and Jack Skelly. If you ever come to Gettysburg, come to the Evergreen Cemetery and walk among these headstones. And also be sure to swing by the Gettysburg Museum of History, see some of these letters and artifacts that are connected to Jennie Wade and all of the other things that we have here in the museum.